Beeman. I'm going to do a presentation, A Day in the Life of Mary. This is based on a true story of a young woman who suffered from mental illnesses. She suffered from paranoid schizophrenia, post-traumatic stress disorder, and depression. I met her at my mental health nurse clinical, and I'm glad that I met her because I met her story, and it taught me about mental illness stigmas and how dangerous they can be. I'm going to tell this story in first-person perspective as if I am Mary herself. How it all began. It began when I was younger. My mother tried to support me, herself, and her boyfriend. We didn't have much money, so I always got teased in school for the clothes that I wore. They were all raggedy and I had torn shoes. I didn't have any friends in school and they all thought I was weird. I heard loud voices inside my head and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know who to talk to about it. The voices were telling me that I'm pathetic, I'm stupid, I'm crazy, and I'm worthless. And it all began after a traumatic experience when I was a little girl. They say I'm not normal. I went to the doctors and they took a brain scan and they showed that I have paranoid schizophrenia. So the brain waves that I have are different than normal people's. And I suffer from fear that I'll be harmed. And I'm always having delusions and hallucinations. So I tried to release my pain. I began cutting myself. It's the only way I knew how to release my pain, and I couldn't talk to anyone about it. So I ended up wearing long sleeve shirts every day to school so that nobody could see the cuts on my wrists. I'm still human. I can't change what happened to me that day. When I was 14 years old, my mother's boyfriend raped me. I didn't know who to talk to about it. And that's when all my signs and symptoms happened with the voices in my head. I became severely depressed, and I didn't know how to handle my situation. I tried to tell, but every time I wanted to tell somebody, I kept remembering the threats that he told me, that he'll kill my mother or he'll hurt me. And I didn't want anything bad to happen to my mother. And if I would have told, nobody would have believed me anyways. So I tried to end it all. One day after school, I went home and I took a bottle of Tylenol. I blacked out and I ended up waking up in the hospital. As soon as I woke up, a psychiatrist came and met with me, and I had what they call a psych eval. They wanted to institutionalize me, and I was terrified. I didn't want to go to a mental health institute because people look down on those with mental illnesses, and I already got picked on. But I also realized that that wasn't the end. When I went to the psychiatric institute, the nurses and the staff members were great, and my psychologists were very understanding. They actually sat down and they listened to me. I never had anyone listen to me before about what I've been through. I was able to feel comfortable telling them about my traumatic experience. I was able to tell them about the voices I had in my head and my depression and my suicidal ideation. And they actually had me do classes, and we had group work, and I actually made some friends. And I have people that understand me, people who have the same mental illnesses as me, and I realized that just because I'm different doesn't mean that I can't have a quality of life as well. And I learned that it's actually the beginning. It's the beginning of me realizing how I can live my life, how I can live without having fear. At first, I was terrified. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't want to go to the mental institute. I was afraid that going back into the community, how would I act? How would people treat me? But I realized that the people there, they were very non-judgmental, and they helped me heal. They helped me realize who I am, and I realized that I'm a beautiful person, and I'm created in the image of God. I learned different coping skills. Instead of cutting myself and trying to end my life, I learned to exercise, listen to music, and I actually studied what my disease was. I studied paranoid schizophrenia so that I could understand what it was, and I studied depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. And everyone who came and talked to me, I educated them about my mental illnesses because I wanted people to understand too. And I actually came to the point where I was able to go out into the community. At the Mental Health Institute, for months at a time, you have to gain what they call points in order to go out and back into the community. And I finally got what's called a green card. I was able to go out in public and get on a bus and go shopping, and that made me feel really good that I got to that point. And I also get together with the nurses, and every few months we teach the public. Like, the public will come in, or the members of the Mental Institute will come, and I make posters and I give presentations about the awareness of mental health stigmas and what these illnesses are and how they're not the end of your life and that you can live with it. And I teach about the importance of taking your medications. People believe that taking their medications will make their mental illness worse and that their medications are the cause for their hallucinations, but that's not true. The medications help you to be normal. And I realized that through this experience that I'm very unique. And just because I'm different doesn't mean that I can't live an active life. And not that long ago, after everything happened, my mother passed away. And each day I think of her as an angel looking down on me and guiding me, because she did save my life. She was the one who found me on the floor. And I realized that I am Mary, and I'm very happy to be alive. And thank you for listening to my story. And overall, I just want everybody to realize the importance of mental health stigma. When you go out in public, there's people who act a little different than you, people who have hallucinations. Most of the time, people who are in public, they're the homeless, and they don't have money for their medications. And if they're not on their medications, they're going to have these hallucinations and these delusions. And the medications can cost, just for one shot, is over $600 a month, and that's rent. And no one can just pull out $600 a month. So just to be aware of how you treat people, and try not to be judgmental, because judgments can be barriers to learning about people. Thank you.